Okay, this is going to be the Algebra 2 self-test. I'm going to run through it very quick. I'm going to try to make this video less than 15 minutes, so you're going to have to listen fast. I'm going to run through this fast because you should already know how to do it. So, number 1, on page 32, you have x to the 4th times x to the 7th. What do you do with your exponents when you are multiplying variables? I hope that you said you add them, which is going to give you x to the 11th power. And that is your answer. Okay? Very simple, very basic. All right? So we're going to move on to the next one, which is number 2. And you have a to the 3rd divided by a. What do you do with your exponents when you are dividing variables? The answer is subtract, which is going to give me a squared. Again, that is your answer. That is all that you do. What about when, like number 3, when you have your terms and your exponents all raised? That's a 3, not a 2. Okay, so every one of these are 2 to the 3rd power, x to the 3rd power, 3 to the 3rd power, y to the 3rd power. Every one of these are raised to the 3rd power. The 2 is raised, the x is raised, the 3 is raised, the y is raised. So 2 to the 3rd power is 8. X to the 3rd power is x to the 3rd because you multiply your exponents. 1 times 3 is 3. 3 to the 3rd power is 27. Y to the 3rd power, again, that's an understood 1 with the y on the inside of the parentheses set, and that 1 is raised to the 3rd. So, therefore, it is y to the 3rd power. It's the same thing as if you were saying x times x times x. So, 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3. All right? So, if you come along one, that is like x to the 4th power over y to the 3rd power, and all of that is raised to the 2nd power. You have to remember that that is x to the 4th and x to the 4th. So when you multiply your variables, you add your exponents. 4 plus 4 is 8. 4 times 2 is 8. So that answer is x to the 8th and y to the 6th. This is something I made up. There's not one of these problems in here, I don't think. Okay? So then you also have to consider that when you're dividing your variables and you have x to the 3rd over x to the, 5th. Okay, my bigger number, my bigger exponent is on bottom. Therefore, my answer is a fraction. 5 minus 3 is 2, leaves me with 1 on top. Because this goes away, the only thing I have left is in the denominator. Again, that's stuff that you should have already learned and you should already understand. Okay, so when you get to one like number 7, you have negative 3x and then parentheses 3x squared minus 5x plus 2, close parentheses. So that 3x, on that negative 3x on the outside is being multiplied by everything on the inside. So it's as if it looks like this. Okay, that 3x that you have there is being multiplied by everything that you've got. So negative 3 times 3 is 9. Negative 9, I'm sorry. X times x to x squared is x to the 3rd. Why is that? Because 1 plus 2 is 3. I have a negative right here on the outside, and I have a negative on the inside. So what happens when you have a negative and a negative? They make a positive. 3 times 5 is 15. X times x is x squared. Why is it x squared? Because 1 plus 1 is 2. And then down here I have a positive and a negative. So my answer is negative. So 3 times 2 is 6. I don't have another x, so it's just 6x. And that's your answer. Okay, so then when you're dividing it, like number 8, and then it says divided by x squared. Every one of those are over x squared. Okay? So remember, if your bigger exponent is on the bottom, then you end up with a fraction. Okay? This one right here, you don't even have an x in there, so it just remains 2 over x squared. All right, so you should be able to do 9. 10 is the same thing. I'll do number 11. 11 is the FOIL method. So I have x minus 2x plus 3. So the FOIL method is first, outside, inside, and last. Okay, so first times the first, x squared. Outside times the outside, positive 3x. Inside times the inside. And then the last times the last. Why is it negative 6 and not positive 6? Because I have a negative here. Okay, so x squared, I have 3x minus 2x, positive 1x minus 6 is your final answer on that one. Okay, so 12 and 13 you should be able to do. When you have x minus 2 and it's squared, this one is the one where you square the first, multiply the first times the second, then double it, and 3 square the last. Now you are 100% welcome to do it out like this and just do the FOIL method, if that's what you want. Or you can do it this way. So square the first, x is my first, and I square it, I get x squared. I multiply the first by the second, that's negative 2 times x, and double it. So negative 2 times x is negative 2x, times 2 is negative 4x. And then square the last. The last is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is positive 4. And that is your answer. Okay? So if you get to one that's like number 16, you have x to the third minus x, and then that is squared. The first thing that you need to do is factor out that x. You have 2 x's in there. You don't need that. You could square it, but it's going to give you this big old long problem. You don't need that. So just factor out an x. X to the third divided by x is x squared. X divided by x is 1. So now you have two numbers here, 2 variables, 2 terms here that are a perfect square. The square root of x squared is x. The square root of 1 is 1. And remember, when you have a difference of 2 squares, you have this same set of binomials. The only difference is the sign in the middle. All right. Okay, we're at 9 minutes. All right, so when you're finding the product of a binomial and a trinomial, so you have 5 plus a times 5a squared minus 5a minus 5. So you're just taking this 5 and you're multiplying it by everything in here. Okay? You multiply it by everything that you see. And then you take the second one. I wish that this would change colors. You take the second one and you do the same thing. Multiply it by every one of them in there. Remember, you got these negative signs right here. So be sure that you're multiplying a positive times a negative. Once you do the multiplication, you add like terms. Once you add like terms, you get your final answer. Okay, 20 and 21. That's just factoring out your greatest common factor between those. So, I mean, like, I'm going to let you do that. Odds are number 20, you're going to factor out a 7x squared y. So, a form of 7 has to be in all three of those sets, the 21, the 354, and the 7. So is 7 divisible by 21? Or is 21 divisible by 7? Yes, it goes into it 3 times. Is 343 divisible by 7? I have no idea. I'd have to do it and find out. So 4, 28, 6, 3, 49. So yes. So I would factor all that out. I have an x squared in every one of them. An x squared in the first, an x to the third in the second, and an x to the fourth in the third one. So there is at least x squared in all of them, and there is at least y in all of them. Okay? So moving over to page 33. So now we're on page 33. 22 and 23 says factor out the binomial from each of these polynomials. Okay, so from here, we're going to do things a little bit different, but not much different. Okay, so what is common in 22? Between the first set, you have a plus 2, a minus 3, and then minus 4a plus 4, a plus 2. Okay, so what's common between this one and this one? The a plus 2 is common between both of them, so I can factor that out. So I factor out a plus 2, and then I multiply it by the what is left. So I have a, my highlighter's not working. So I have a, and I have negative 4a, which is going to give me negative 3a. And then I have negative 3a minus 4a, which is going to give me negative 7. Okay, so that's the final answer for this one. You factored out what was common. Okay, so then on number 23, you have to set both of these up and factor out what's common between them. So I'm going to put a set of parentheses around them. Okay, parentheses, 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 parentheses. All right, so what is common between b squared plus ab? Well, it's b. Leaves me with a b and an 8. Bring my addition sign. What's common between 2b and 16? The answer is 2. Leaves me with a b plus 8. Now what is common? I have b plus 8 and b plus 8 in both of them. So I'm going to take this b, I'm going to add it to that 2, b plus 2 times b plus 8. The answer is the same thing as if you were to do the FOIL method from here. You're going to get b squared. I have a b squared right there. You're going to get 8b. I have an 8b right there. You're going to get 2b. I have 2b right there. And you're going to get a 16. I have a 16 right there. Okay? So you just set both of them to parentheses, in parentheses, factor out what is common, and then combine it all together. Okay? Now, 24 through 43 is factoring out the problems, whether you're just factoring out one thing, if you're factoring out multiple things, if you're trying to find the difference of two squares, whatever it is you're trying to do. So on this section, I'm not going to go through all of these. I'm not going to do a 5 minutes extra in this video to show you how to do these, because I did this in the checkup 2 video. It's page 21 and 22, I believe. Okay, so I'm not doing that again. You can go back to those problems. I'm going to move on to page 34. Okay, and this is going to be the last page. Again, we're going to run through it real quick. So the first one is y squared minus 36. I did this video and y'all said it was kind of confusing. And it's set equal to 0. So it wants you to find the solution for these open sets. Well, what do we know about y squared? I hope you said that it's a perfect square. What do we know about 36? Again, it's a perfect square. So what is this? Y squared minus 36. It is a difference. Remember the negative in there tells you it's a difference of two squares. 1 square, 2 square. Okay? So when you have a difference of two squares, you just take the square root of the first, which is y and y. The only difference in your two binomials is the sign. So I put a plus sign and a minus sign. And then the square root of the last is 6. So what we do here is we say x plus 6, y plus 6 equals 0. Y plus 6, y minus 6, y minus 6 equals 0. So what is my final answer? Is negative 6, because I subtract 6 from both sides. That 0 becomes negative 6. Here I'm going to add 6 to both sides. And 6. That is my solution set. That is my answer right there. That's what you're supposed to have. Okay? So doing the next one, it's, oh, sorry. Go back to the pen. Okay, so I have y squared, x squared. I have x to the third plus 6x equals 7x squared. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to move that 7x squared over. So I'm going to subtract it. Okay, then I get x to the third minus 7x squared plus 6x. I did that because you go from largest to smallest in your exponents. So there's an x in all three of these. I need to factor that out. If you don't understand how I just got that, you need to pause it and stare at it for a minute and figure it out. Okay? So now what I do is I factor this. So x times, and I have two binomials. So I know I've got x because this is just x squared. My second sign is positive, so that tells me that my signs are the same. My first sign is negative, so that tells me both signs are negative. Okay, so now factors of 6, when added together, give me 7. Obviously, it is 6 and 1. So now I set these equal to 0. Okay, so my final solution set is 0, 6, 1. Oops, sorry. Okay. Now, number 46, you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to set them, you're going to factor out that trinomial into two binomials. And then you're going to say if they intersect or not. So like when you finally come out with it, you should have an x is greater than something and x is less than something else. Okay, that should be your two answers. So from there you'll decide which and actually in this book you always have the union. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. It's just like that. It's supposed to be you. Okay. So now moving on to dividing trinomials and binomials and all the big things, okay? So I'm going to do number 48 on here. And y'all can do the rest because, again, we did all of this last year, so we should know how to do it. But 48 is your long one, so I'm going to do it. Remember that you can only add and subtract like terms when you're going through these. So if you get to one that does not have a like term, you just bring those down. You don't try to add and subtract them with something that is not like them. Okay? I didn't give myself enough room. It's supposed to be 2b squared. Let's try again. 2b squared minus 3b plus 5. There we go. All right, so when you're dividing, what you want to do is you want to look at your first term of each. So I have 2b to the fourth, and I have 2b squared. So 2b to the fourth, 2b squared. I'm going to divide them. The 2's are going to cancel. 4 minus 2, because that's my exponents. It's going to give me b squared. So that's what I'm going to put up here. It's b squared. So then I take b squared and I multiply it by everything that is down here. All of that. So b squared times 2b squared is 2b to the fourth. Erase that. B squared times negative 3b is negative 3b to the third. And then b squared times positive 5 gives me positive 5b squared. Now, like terms. So I'm subtracting, changes all these signs. That becomes a negative. So the 2b to the fourth and the 2b to the fourth cancel. Positive b to the third plus 3b to the third gives me 2b to the third. 8b and 5b squared, I can't do anything with that. So I'm just going to bring that 5b squared down. And then I'm going to bring my positive 8b down. You can go ahead and bring that 15 down if you want to, just so it doesn't get lonely up there by itself and you don't forget about it, but you don't have to yet. All right, so now, again, first term, first term. All right, so 2b to the third divided by my first term, which is 2b squared. The 2's cancel. 3 minus 2 is 1, and it's positive. So multiplying it by b. So b times 2b squared is 2b to the third. b times negative 3b is negative 3b squared. And b times positive 5 is positive 5b. Okay, so again, I'm subtracting. So it changes that sign, changes that sign, changes that sign. These cancel, they equal 0. Negative 5 plus 3 is negative 2b squared. 8b minus 5b is positive 3b. And then bring down my 15. So again, we're just looking at those first terms, and I have a negative 2b squared divided by 2b squared. Okay? So the 2 and the 2 cancel. 2 minus 2 is 0, so that gives me b to the 0 power, and we learned in 8th grade, and we learned last year in 9th grade, that anything raised to the 0 power is 1. Don't forget about your fun negative right there, so the answer is negative 1. So now you multiply that by everything you see over here. Negative 1 times 2b squared gives you negative 2b squared. Negative 1 times negative 3b gives you positive 3b. Negative 1 times positive 5 gives you negative 5. You subtract, so it changes all these signs in here. And these cancel, and these cancel. 15 plus 5 is 20. So my answer is b squared plus b minus 1 with a remainder of 20 over 2b squared minus 3b plus 5. All right, hope this gets you through the self-test. It was 25 minutes. I failed at making it less than 15 minutes, but I mean, it is a long self-test, and I do have to talk a lot.